Hello, trader. I hope you are all doing well. So my name is Anthony. Welcome to this video today. So as usual, today is on Sunday and you know very well, we do our top-down analysis for us to get ready for a new week. So if this is the first time that you have landed to this channel, as I've said, my name is Anthony and I dedicate myself to help you guys on how to analyze the market on your own for you to avoid depending on the signal groups and stuff like that. So without wasting time, let's dive into the market and see what the market has to offer for a coming week. So the first pair that we are going to analyze today, the DXY. So you know very well, if you trade the major dollar pairs, it is always advisable for you to do analysis on DXY because you know very well, DXY is a driver to the dollar pairs. So that is a correlation. So if the DX is bullish, so you want to do the quite opposite on dollar pairs. So if for instance you find that your analysis on DXY is bullish, so that means the dollar analysis is going to be bearish. All right. So this one will save you a lot of time or a lot of confusion because sometimes you might find that the Euro USD is bullish. At the same time, when you look at the GBP USD is also bearish, and then you are under contradiction. You don't know which analysis are you supposed to trust or are you supposed to follow. So that is why you introduce the concept of DXY. So if the DXY is going to be bullish and you find one of the dollar pairs have the same analysis as DXY, so you know most probably that pair has a high chances of manipulating, right? So you go with the pair that is going opposite with the DXY. So that's a correlation. So now, starting with the analysis on DXY, you know very well. If you have been here, you know very well how we did all this analysis. If this is your first time, make sure you review the other videos on my channel and you will understand how we arrived to this point. So I'm just going direct to the analysis that we are having here. Since we are doing the top-down analysis, allow me to start my analysis on daily time frame for today. So you can see very clearly that this is the last BOS after this pair reacted from this order block here or this demand zone. So we saw that it tried to consolidate within this area for a while, but eventually it broke and gave us a break of structure to the downside, whereby it came later on and closed above here, giving us a change of character or what we call the market structure shift. So what does that one mean to us? So since we see that, now that means what the buyers have shifted from bearish to bullish, and now it means that we should be looking for buying opportunities. So what do you expect? We expect the market to come at least to the discount area because we are bullish. So we don't have any business when the market is still at the premium. So we wait for a market to come at the discount and then we look for buying opportunities from this area. All right. But also don't forget that we don't just start buying randomly once the market comes to this area. So we have to look for a point of interest or an area of interest. Where are you supposed to look for buying opportunities from? All right. So now that is introduce you to the next concept of marking a point of interest. So as usual, if this time frame seems to be very challenging for you to mark your point of interest, I always advise go to one time frame higher. Since we are on the daily, so we shift to weekly time frame. So here on the weekly time frame, you can see one advantage of doing this. One, you can see that on the weekly time frame, the candlesticks are very few and it is very easy to mark your point of interest. The second uh, importance of doing this, when you go to higher time frame, you identify the higher time frame point of interest, which has high possibility of holding compared to the lower time frame point of interest. So you don't expect the market to respect more a 4 hour time frame when we have maybe a weekly time frame up or below your zone. All right. So see here in the weekly time frame, you can see very clearly this is our candle, this is our order block, the last sale candle that led to this break of structure or this change of character to the upside. So that one becomes our candle or our demand zone or an order block. So once you do that, now you can go back to your daily. So the business that you are going to have on the daily time frame, you are not going to mark a new point of interest. So what you are doing here, we are just going to refine this zone. And when you refine, here becomes your zone. So we have this last sale candle that led to this break of structure to the upside or this change of character. So this becomes your order block. Very easy, very simple. So what do you do next? Just wait for a market to come to your POI. After the market taps to your POI, this is when now you shift to the lower time frame to wait for your confirmation. So for this matter, We are just going to the 1 hour time frame because that is where we are going to do to wait for our confirmation. All right. So looking at the 1 hour time frame. All right. But before I go to 1 hour, let me just first of all go to 4 hour. There is something that is more important there. Okay. Let's just give our chart a minute to load. So here we are from the 4 hour time frame. So what do we see? We ask ourselves, what was the last structure on the 4 hour time frame? We can see very clearly that this was the last break of structure from this time frame. So we can't say that here we have a break of structure. This is just a sweep of liquidity. So this was the last BOS from the 4 hour time frame. So what do you expect? Remember, what did we say? Uh, how do you know that this daily pullback is done or the market is done with this pullback? So we need to see the 4 hour swing shifting direction. Remember, the 4 hours, we expect to see the 4 hour swing being bearish as it is heading to this uh order block here because the objective is just to facilitate the pullback of the daily swing. So once the market comes to this point of interest, we expect to see the 4 hour swing shifting direction. So if I go to the 4 hour time frame, what do I ask myself, what is the last bearish break of structure that the 4 hour printed? And you can see very clearly that this was the last BOS. All right. So what happened? You can see market came to this order block or this supply zone and tried to sell from that area. But you can see very clearly we never closed below this low. All right. We never closed below this low. Actually, the market left two relatively equal lows at that point. All right. Now, later on, market came back and took out this high, giving us now a change of character. So that means what? This daily, that one indicate to us that this daily pullback it's over. Since now we have the 4 hour swing shifting direction to the bullish, which is now aligning with our daily swing. So now it is high time now for us to start looking for areas where you are supposed to take your buy opportunities from. Now, looking at this structure from down here up to this high, so what do you see? You mark your fib from high to the low. You can see very clearly this is where we have the equilibrium. What do we expect? We expect the market to come to at least to the discount or to the 50% here, and then we start looking for buying opportunities. But remember, we trade what we see and what we don't predict the market, but we react with what the market is showing us, right? Now, how do we know that the pullback of this 4 hour swing has begun? So that means the fractal of this time frame has to shift bearish. But currently, we don't have a fractal change of character. So what we have is just a fractal break of structure here to the upside. So until we see a fractal change of character, we are still bullish, right? And the market has not yet begun the pullback, right? So that is why from our previous analysis that we did on Wednesday, since we had this break of structure here to the upside, guys, I told you this is an area that you should be looking for buying opportunities from this area. And you can see very clearly that the market came to that area, reacted from there, and tried to buy. But since we don't have a break of structure to the upside now, and the market is seems to be consolidating, and I don't like the way the market is slowing down, guys, because once we see that, since we took out this high, we expect the market to come for a pullback, right? And judging from the kind of momentum we are having with the buyers, we are going to see sellers coming to the market very soon, at least to facilitate this pullback towards this zone. Because if I go to the daily, what do I see? I have this candle here. Actually, the best way is to identify the last sell candle before the buy. But for me, I can refine to this candle because I can see a very good fair value gap that is resting at that point, making this one to be my order block. If you go to the 4 hour time frame, you can see very clearly that is our order block. You can still refine it, but for me, I'll just leave it that way. So what do I expect? I expect the market to come down towards this area and or at least with the 50% before starting to look for buying opportunities. So currently for me, currently we don't have a structure for now. So what we should wait for a market either to break this high or to break this low, right? Since now we are kind of consolidating, wait for a market to break out of this range, either the high or the low. Once we break the high, we look for buys opportunity. Once we break the low, we look for selling opportunities. So since now we have that analysis on DXY, you can say that DXY is bullish. So we expect the dollar to be bearish. So now let's look at the Euro USD, my good friend Euro USD. Very nice. So the same thing there, guys. The same analysis we did here. Let me start from the daily. I want you to see this. You can see very clearly that since the market reacted from this monthly point of interest, daily time frame gave us this change of character. The same as DXY. We expected the market to come to this order block. That is where the market came, took out this I as a liquidity, and then gave us a change of character. If you go to the 4 hour, the same thing that we have seen on DXY. You can see that this was our last bullish break of structure from the 4 hour, meaning this is our low. Okay, and the market took out that low, giving us a change of character. Very simple, very easy. So since now we have that change of character, what did we do? We went to the daily time frame, and from the daily time frame, we marked our last sell candle, which is this candle. The last sell, the last buy before the sale, sorry. This becomes our order block. Okay, so after marking that, I went to 4 hour together here, guys, and this is how we marked our order block. We refined to this zone and also this zone. So these are my point of interest, making this eye to be my liquidity, making that I to be my liquidity. But have we yet started the pullback? Not yet, guys. We are still bearish. Market has not yet shown any intention of pullback. So how do we know that the pullback has begun? When the market takes out this high. If we see a candle closing above this high, that is when we'll have our change of character. So that means that one will not mean that the buyers have shifted. No, that is just to facilitate the pullback for market to come to an area that is sitting at the premium, and then we start looking for selling opportunities from that area. So when we were here on Wednesday, I told you guys, since we had this very nice break of structure, and this was our protected eye, which was a very strong eye, and this was our zone, which we marked from the 4 hour, if I'm not wrong. Was it on 4 hour? Yes, you can see we have a very massive fair value gap here, but from the 1 hour, that is when you can see a very good order block. This last buy before the sale, that became our order block. Then I told you guys we should be looking for selling opportunities from this area. Unfortunately for me, I was really busy from Wednesday. I never looked at the chart, so I ended up missing, and I came to see that we had an opportunity to take your sell. All right. So after this market reacted from this area, immediately there was no opportunity for you to sell because you can't see a good structure around that area. All right. But for me, if I was looking at the chart, I could have used this opportunity here. We have this liquidity being swept. We have liquidity being swept, and then we have this break of structure to the downside. So we have a BOS here, which is an internal BOS. So that means what? I could have looked for selling opportunities from this area. So if you capitalize on this opportunity, let me know on the comment section whether you took this entry. So that means your stop loss should be above there. And I believe you already made 1:3. You already eat 1:3. Take profit. Let's check. You can see 1:3 is there, guys. So if you really capitalize on this opportunity, let me know on the comment section whether you took this entry. So currently, what we are having, because that is what we are doing here. So currently, because 4 hour we never closed above below this low, the same way with the DXY. You wait for a market to take out either this low or this high. Once we take this low, we continue selling, right? Once we take this high, we look for short-term buys as we wait for a market to come to these areas. But I will recommend you guys, if we break this high, I would recommend you to be patient and wait for a market to come to these areas, and then you start looking for selling opportunities, right? Because we are very close to this zone. So that is my bias on Euro USD. Going to the GBP USD. So this still remains to my point of interest. If you follow what we did here last time at link, you will understand how we arrived there. But briefly, let me just show you. All right, let me start from the monthly. This is now the importance of looking at the DXY, because sometimes the GPP and Euro USD might be contradicting. But if you understand the analysis on DXY, then you will know which pair between the two is kind of manipulating. All right. So since we got this break of structure here to the downside, what did we do? We identified this zone here. This is the monthly point of interest, and you can see market never closed above it, meaning the market is really respecting that zone. Looking at the internal structure of this time frame, you can see that this was the last monthly internal break of structure. Let me go to the weekly. You can see it very clearly. This is the last break of structure to the upside. So market never closed above this area. I cannot forget that we still have this order block that is resting above here, right? We still have this order block that is resting, but we operate with what we are currently seeing. If you look at this uh internal break of structure, we can see very clearly that the market never came to the 50%. You can see this is where we have the 50%. And to add on confluence, we see that the market sweeping out the buy side liquidity. And what do we know? Once the market takes out the buy side liquidity, the next target of liquidity is always the sell side liquidity. So that is why we are looking for selling opportunities on this pair. So since we swept this buy side liquidity, we expect the market to come and take out the sell side liquidity and also come to the 50% of this dealing range. So if the market wants to continue buying, maybe then it should come to this discount area before us to start looking for selling buying opportunities. So that was my confluence, and that is why I was looking to sell. All right, now looking at the fractal structure. After we swept this buy side liquidity, you can see that this was the last fractal break of structure, which led to this fractal change of character. So we have the change of direction, right? Since we have this fractal change of character here, I mark this as my order block. You see this last buy candle, which led to this break of structure, becomes my order block. And what are we seeing? After the market came to that area, you see we had a very nice reaction from that area. One candle which engulfed four candles. This one bearish candle engulfed four bullish candle, meaning now we have a very strong reaction from that area. That is why we are looking for selling opportunities around this area. Now, if we go to the 4-hour time frame, we can see very clearly that this was the last break of structure on the 4-hour time frame, which led to this change of character to the downside. So, meaning now this is our dealing range. Let me pull this one to the right left. So this is our dealing range from this high all the way to this low. All right. We can see still the market is still at the discount. And you know very well, for me, I don't have any business when the market is still at the discount. So what do I expect? I expect the market to come to the premium, that is to the 50%, and we start looking for any selling opportunities from there. And since we don't have any liquidity that is visible, the only liquidity that we can see it is this high. So we have this I as liquidity. So I expect the market to sweep that I, and we also have this I here as liquidity. So because always the market is always hunting for liquidity, I wonder why do I expect? That is why you are seeing me marking this point of interest that is above here. So I expect the market to come to this area, sweep this liquidity before we start looking for any selling opportunities. But though, don't forget, we are currently sitting at the daily fair value gap because you can't see, although we have a very tiny fair value gap above here, you can see very clearly that we have this small fair value gap here, which is sitting at the premium. All right, so that is why I'm still anticipating for GBPUSD to come at least sweep this liquidity that we have seen on the 4-hour and fill this gap before looking for any selling opportunities. So currently the market is reacting from this daily fair value gap. So we have this very nice daily fair value gap. The market is rejecting from the CE or the consequent encroachment of this fair value gap, or in other words, you can call it the equilibrium of this fair value gap. All right. So the only problem with this fair value gap is still sitting at the discount, guys, and I don't like this. If you look closely, you can see that this fair value gap is sitting at the discount. That is why you can see the market is not having a good reaction from here. The market has been reacting from this area, but for 1, 2, 3, 4, for 4 days, guys, and you can say from the daily time frame we are still consolidating. So what do I expect? I expect the market to break out of this range, either from the upside or to the downside, and I start looking for any entry confirmation. But currently, I anticipate for a market to come a little bit higher, at least to the premium, before you start looking for any selling opportunities. All right. So that is my analysis on GBP USD. So I don't know what you think about this analysis. Maybe you tell me in the comment section what is your bias and what are you looking for on this pair. All right. So moving on to the next pair, we are going to look at USDCHF. So this is the pair that we have been waiting for a whole week. Last week, we were waiting for this setup to play out. So what was our analysis? Since we saw this break of structure here, which is a very good break of structure, sorry, meaning this is our protected high, a very strong high because it swept this internal liquidity before pushing to give us this break. So meaning this high becomes our protected high and this is our targeted low. So what did we anticipate? So we had marked this order block here from the daily time frame, which we refined on 4-hour time frame. All right. So on Sunday, we did this analysis together here, guys. If I'm not wrong, we did this analysis and I was telling you guys, since we are very close to this zone, and we had a very good structure here from 1 hour time frame or 15 minutes time frame, I was telling you to look for buying opportunities from here, and you were supposed to target that daily zone, which is around this area here. So that is where your target was supposed to be. And you can see now, if you capitalized on this setup, guys, I believe you made some good money from this setup. It was a very beautiful setup. Okay. So now, what are we looking for currently? Because you can see that the market has tapped to this 4-hour zone, right? And we are reacting from there. So to me, what do I like to see? Because if I look at the 1 hour time frame, if I look at the 1 hour time frame, this is my last break of structure to the upside. So what do I need to see? I need to see the market breaking out this low. And we are seeing the market just sweep liquidity. So what do I anticipate or what do I expect? I expect to see 1 hour candle closing below this low. So once you see 1 hour closing below this low, just go to 4 hour time frame and mark your point of interest. So for me, this is gonna be my order block. Okay. So don't forget this order block is not valid till the market breaks out of this low, right? Once the market closes below this low, that is when this order block becomes valid. Okay, so assume now the order block is going to, the market is going to close below this low. This is going to be your order block, and we have liquidity. We have liquidity here. This is gonna be your liquidity. So that means expect you to take your selling opportunities around this area. Stop loss below this high. Your stop loss should be some few pips below that high. You can have like 24 pips stop loss. All right. And where will be your target? This is gonna be your target, and this is gonna be 1:5 risk to 1. But don't forget, guys, just wait for a candle to close below this low. Once you have that, then that is when this setup is gonna be an active setups. Until then, just wait for a market and see what the market will do. So that is a setup to watch. So if you have that, guys, don't fear. Just place your limit orders around this area. Bearing in mind that the worst thing that can happen, guys, is only a trade eating your stop loss, which is normal, guys. Right? So once you see everything, so for me, if I see that, I won't hesitate to place my order here because one, I know for a fact that I've waited for my confirmation. Everything is okay with my analysis, right? And with my strategy and with my plan. So I don't have to fear to place my limit order around this area. All right. Okay, so moving on to the next pair, and I believe we are going to look at the NAS 100. So NAS 100, from our previous analysis that we did, I was telling you guys, wait for a market to close above this high, and we got that change of character, guys. But unfortunately, this pair never came for a pullback, because for me, I was waiting for a market to come to, where was that area? 1 hour. I had this 1 hour order block here. So this is where I was waiting to take my buys from, but unfortunately, we never came to that area. Stop loss was supposed to be this below this low, and the target above this high, which is also normal, guys. Right? So most of the time, market does like this, which is also normal. So currently, what are we having? Since now we are very close to this high, we are going to go to the lower time frame and see whether we have a setup around this area. I'm going direct to 15 minutes time frame. And if I look at the 15 minutes time frame, I can see a very good structure here. We have a very nice break of structure. Is this a strong law, guys? Is this a strong law? If you have said yes, that means you are correct. Why is that? Because you can see that law took out all this internal liquidity. We have the liquidity being swept and then pushed to break this high. So that means this is your liquidity low. So this is your liquidity low, or that is where we have your liquidity, and this becomes my order block. So once the market opens today at midnight, look for buying opportunities from this area, guys. So look for buying opportunity from these areas because we are very close to the target of the market, which is this buy side liquidity. So I don't and expect to have that deeper retracement. But in case that zone fails, we still have this order block here because you can see we have a very nice break of structure here, which swept this internal liquidity. So meaning these are very strong low. Okay. So if this zone fails, this is why I always advise people to wait for confirmation. All right. So for me, I don't think whether gonna be able to take this entry because I believe before tomorrow, before my time for me to take entries, already the market would have already reacted from this area and already moved. But if you can manage to watch out for this setup at midnight, then when the market opens, then you can look for confirmation around this area and take your target, take profit around this area. If this one fails, then wait for another buying opportunity from this area. Okay, so that's my analysis on NAS 100. I think the next pair is gonna be BTC. So allow me to start from the weekly time frame from the BTC. It's been a while since we started this analysis from this time frame. Okay, so what do we see on the weekly? This was our last bullish break of structure, which led to this change of character. Meaning now we are very much bearish on the weekly time frame, right? So what do we expect to see? What do you expect to do? You identify your swing high to the swing low. Where is the equilibrium? Here is where we have your equilibrium. So what do you expect? We expect the market to come to the equilibrium or to the premium, sorry, or to the equilibrium before we start looking for selling opportunities, right? So that is what you know at the back of our mind. So now, for me, I anticipate the market to come at least to this premium area before looking for any selling opportunities to take the BTC to the downside. But remember, we trade what we see, not what we think. All right. So having that on mind, that means this I here becomes my liquidity. That is I becomes my liquidity. And then if the market takes out that I, we should be looking for any selling opportunities from that area. But are we there yet? Not yet, guys. So what do we do next? We pay attention to the fractal structure of this time frame. You can see very clearly that this is the last fractal break of structure on this time frame. Meaning, if you go to the daily time frame, that fractal structure that we are seeing on the weekly becomes a swing. And that is why we are seeing me marking this order block here and this I. So if the market takes out this I, that means the market is coming for the weekly pullback. That means the weekly pullback has begun. But until the market breaks this I, we are still bearish. And that is why we can see me marking this order block and also this order block. All right? Okay. From what we are seeing on the BTC, let me go to 4-hour time frame. From our previous analysis that we did, we were anticipating the BTC to buy from this area, right? So this is what our anticipation, because you can see this is our last 4-hour break of structure. That meaning this is our strong low. This is our strong low because you can see the market swept this internal liquidity before pushing to break this high. So this becomes our strong low. But unfortunately, we are seeing now we have a change of character to the downside. We have this change of character. That is why, guys, I told you from the last session that we did together that I was not trusting this movement that we are seeing here, because I don't expect to see market moving this very slow after reacting from an extreme point of interest. So I expected to see a very strong momentum coming out of this zone. All right. So that is why I didn't trust this change of character that we see around this area. So for me, after I saw this internal change of character here, which is very good change of character actually, right? Because we have a very nice break of structure here. If you go to the 15 minutes time frame, let me show you. You can see that we have this internal liquidity being swept before giving you a break. Later on, market gave you this change of character. So for me, because of the kind of momentum that I was seeing around this area, that is why you saw I showed you the trade that I took around this area. I took a sell from this area, which was a very good trade. I exited on this demand zone around this area. Okay. So later on, market gave us this change of character here, meaning we're supposed to start looking for selling or buying opportunities. Okay. And I remember showing you guys when the market was around this area, I told you if you break this high, then you should be looking for buying opportunities from this area. But already market, first of all, mitigated this zone before coming to break this high. So meaning now, or not unless you refine it from the 1 hour time frame, if you refine, you arrive to this zone. Okay. So I believe if you are trying to buy from this area, at least you ran from small profits before the market came down to take you out. And for me, I could have looked for another confirmation around this area because also because of this kind of momentum that we are seeing here, the buyers are still were very weak, and they didn't show the momentum to push this market to the upside. So I really could have waited for another confirmation around this area, which will should come from the 55 minutes time frame. Let's check whether you got that confirmation. So from the 5 minutes time frame, we can see very clearly we have this internal change of character, meaning I will go to the 15 minutes time frame after that change of character, and then this is where I will look for buying opportunities. You look for buying opportunities from that area. So you enter here, okay? Stop loss should be either below this low or this low down here, but the safest place was supposed to be this low. But unfortunately, guys, remember all this one happens, eh? But unfortunately, this setup never played out. Market just went down, although we had some reaction from that area. But unfortunately, we moved to the downside, and market gave a shifted direction to the downside. Meaning, currently we are really bearish on this pair. We are really bearish on this pair, so we should be looking for selling opportunities. So if you are looking for selling opportunities on BTC, I believe you are looking at the good analysis or a good opportunity. So now, where are you supposed to look for your selling opportunities from? All right. So you can see very clearly that we have this break of structure to the downside there, meaning now you have a dealing range. This is your high, this is your low. Okay. So you should be waiting for a market to come. You can see very clearly the market has already come to the premium, and we are having a very good reaction from that area, around that area. So where was supposed to be your point of interest? This is your point of interest. We have this 4 hour order block here. So that is where you are supposed to look for your selling opportunities from. So if you need a confirmation, you go to the 15 minutes time frame and you wait for your confirmation around this area. So for me, I can't see a very good structure, but if you like, you can have this sweep of as a sweep of liquidity. But I don't like this. I like when I have a break to the upside. So we have that sweep of liquidity. So you should be waiting for this low to be taken out. You should be waiting for this low to be taken out. If you have a candle closing below this low, you have your confirmation, and you can look for you can start looking for selling opportunities to the downside. But for me, if to have a very good confirmation, this is what I would like to see: a sweep of this low, then market comes to take out this high, and then we have a good structure to the downside. That is a good confirmation that I would like to get from this area. Okay. Otherwise, if you have this change of character to the downside, wait for a market to come to a point of interest above here, and you can wait for another confirmation from the 5 minutes time frame for you to be sure that the market is gonna respect this zone. Okay, because the market might be coming for this liquidity and then continue buying to take out this high. Okay, so you have to be very careful with that. Otherwise, my bias on this pair is that you should be looking for selling opportunities. Also, don't forget that if you look at the 4 hour swing structure, What are we having? Since we have this change of character, so don't forget that the market can decide to violate this high, right? And start coming for a pullback because this is where we have a change of character. And if it has to come for a pullback, if you go to the daily, we can't have a good zone to mark. We can go back to the 4 hour. So from the 4 hour, I will mark this fair value gap here. All right. So in case this zone fails, this is where you should be waiting for a market to come next and wait for another confirmation here from the 15 minutes time frame for you to take that selling opportunities. And the last of all, today we are going to analyze gold. Also, guys, one of my students managed to take this entry here because this is analysis that we did here together, guys, on Wednesday. And I told you guys, you should be waiting for confirmation around this area once the market comes to that area. So if you are really capitalize on that analysis, so this is what that guy did. This is one of my students that did this analysis. For me, I didn't. I told you from Wednesday, I never looked at the chart, so I didn't see this. All right. So once the market came to this area, so he used this one as internal change of character. This was the last break. Then we had this internal change of character. So he marked this order block here from I think 1 hour. I don't know. Maybe let's go to 15. Yeah, he marked this order block from the 15 minutes time frame. I don't know whether it was 15 or let me go to the 30 minutes. Yeah, we have that zone from the 30 minutes time frame. So that is where he took the entry from. Stop loss above there, and he was only targeting 1:3. That is always my advice. If you can get 1:3, and since we are on Friday, just be contented with that and wait for the next opportunity. So currently, what are we waiting for a gold, or what am I anticipating on gold? Okay. Since now we are having this reaction from this area, you should be waiting for gold to take out this low. Okay, sorry guys for that glitch. So we can see very clearly this was our resistance turning to our support zone or support turning to resistance. So we can see the market has been reacting from this area for multiple times. So I was anticipating for a market to come to this area. I'm still anticipating for a market to come to this area. Once the market come to this zone, start looking for selling opportunities. Now, assuming that the market is will open and come and take out this eye. Until that this eye is protected, then you should be looking for selling opportunities, right? But if the market closes above this eye, this is your next point of interest that you should be looking for selling opportunities. If this one fails, we have this extreme point of interest. But currently, just let us be patient with the market and wait for a market to show you the right direction. So for me on gold, I would rather just wait for a gold to break out of this zone, either out of this range, either by breaking the high or breaking the low. Okay, maybe on Wednesday, if I get something on Wednesday, I will come back here again and I will give you an update on what the market would have done. So, guys, before I go, guys, let me remind you if you want to learn how to do this one on one with me, I still have a running mentorship, private mentorship, that I will teach you one on one on how to analyze the market like I do and how to identify the setups on your own and you to avoid depending on the signals. All right. So find the link on the WhatsApp to the description of this video. The charges to the mentorship is also there. So if you are ready to join, just text me on WhatsApp and I will guide you on how to join the mentorship. So guys, until next time, it's a bye bye for now. I wish you a fantastic week and happy peeps hunting. So thank you. I'll see you on Wednesday.